So I decided to do a little bit of a jump around. There's this Sefer Tferes L'Moshe. I think you're a little bit familiar with it. So I saw like 4 interesting different mamarim that he had on Achrei Mos, on Kedoshim, and I decided not to do any of them and just take a little piece from here and a little piece from there, because I wanted to do a little chizuk, just a little bit of chizuk. Achrei Mos-Kedoshim. Achrei Mos-Kedoshim are very loaded parshas. A couple of interesting things about this transition of Achrei Mos-Kedoshim. Achrei Mos is really the last parsha in Vayikra that deals with Kodshim, right? Really deals with all the karbanos and things, and Kedoshim sort of switches to the more personal mitzvahs. And between Achrei Mos and Kedoshim, you have a lot of mitzvahs. There's a lot of interpersonal mitzvahs. There's a lot going on. But I wanted to see something a little bit more chizuki. And he has. So I did one piece on his Achrei Mos Kedoshim, and then a couple of little snippets from Kedoshim. But I think we'll see a little bit of a theme here. Okay, so he starts off in Parshas Achrei Mos Kedoshim. He says, I'm not going to read through the whole thing. I just wanted to give you the context. But he says that he starts with in Achrei Mos. He says the parsha is tremendous chizuk. Parsha Senu hi chizuk gadol l'chol Yehudi. There's tremendous chizuk for every Jew. Shebachol matzav. So he says that b'chol matzav shenimtza, any situation that a Jew finds himself, sheyedesh HaKadosh Baruch Hu, a person should know that Hashem is with him. And where do you see this? He says, va'af im hisrachik ma'od ma'av b'shamayim. Right? We all have these moments where we feel like we're having those bad days, bad weeks sometimes, and we feel like we're very distant from our Father in heaven. B'chol zois HaKadosh Baruch Hu lehisrachim menu. You should know, he says, that when you feel distant from Hashem, that's from your perspective. From Hashem's perspective, you're never distant. Hashem never feels distant from us, no matter what we've done. It says in the pasuk, that Hashem is with us in our tumah. Because of Rashi HaKadosh, Rashi says, Shamal pasuk, Divrei Gemara, Yuma, the Gemara in Yuma tells us, V'chenu b'teres kahanim, Hashoichin itam b'toich tumasam, af al pishem tmeim, shchina b'neim. So that's a very important thing that a person should know. It's a Gemara. It's not it's not like a feel-good, later, more recent type of Dvar. It's from the Gemara. The Gemara says that even though a Jew is tameh, even though he's done things that put him in the category of tumah, the Shechina is with him. Dahainu shebal yomer adam b'shosha oisa cheshbon nafshay v'reiz atzmei melechet hamsham. Right, a person, let's say, does a cheshbon nefesh. He takes stock of his life and he says, I have not been a very good boy or girl recently, right? I have not been doing well. He feels like I can't, or I'm not worthy of coming close to Hashem. I feel very dirty. He feels like his bond with Hashem has been detached, separated. Right? And he doesn't even know how to come back, even if he wants to. Why? Because he has the Yetzer Hara whispering in his ear, and he puts it in quotes. This is because we've all heard the Yetzer Hara tell this to us. You tried so hard. You already ruined it. You're well entrenched in the side of impurity. You're never going to become somebody who's in kedusha. You're never going to find holiness. Holiness is not for you. You're not somebody who's connected to holiness. In other words, basically, you blew the next world. You're sharing the next world. You already ruined it. You lost that. You may as well at least try to enjoy this world a little bit, right? You might as well try to have the best you can. The Torah is coming to warn even these type of people. By the way, he's not saying, you're not necessarily wrong. Your cheshbon nefesh could be right. I have not been good the last day, the last week, the last month, the last year, or whatever. It's true. I have not been doing the things I should be doing. I haven't been doing the right things. But still, you should not fall. Chalila v'yedu shafilu choyshiv u'margish nisrachik me'akadosh baruch Hu. A person should, that even if you feel that you're separate from Hashem, you think and you feel you're separate from Hashem. Mikol makom avish b'shmayim leholach mi'itoy v'le'nisrachik menu. Hashem has not left you. It's just that's how you feel, but Hashem has not left you. V'adayin oyev oisay le'pachos me'ahavas av leben. He loves you no less than a father to a son. V'oid yoser mikach, more than that, shadayin shoichin ima, he's still with you. Kamayim Chazal, al afal pishem tameim, even though they're tamei, shchina b'neim, the shchina is still with them. And he quotes now, just skip the next line, but he quotes the Gemara in the Yerushalmi in Bracha, he says, how far Hashem, he says, Reish Lakish Amar, B'Shem and Lakish Amar, Basar v'dam yesh le'karev. We've probably all been guilty of this. You have different relatives or different friends. There are some that come in more handy, right? You have a wealthy friend or a wealthy relative. It's always good to stay on good terms with them. You never know when you might need that loan, right? You never know when you might need a favor, right? Certain people do. So a person has different relatives, and maybe im hu ashir hu ma'idabay, right? So if you have a wealthy cousin, you acknowledge that he's your cousin, right? You tell people that's my cousin. But if im hu ani, usually it works the other way, that he's calling you for favors, he's calling you for things. So maybe you don't always kaifer by, you don't. Somebody say, I met your cousin. Cousin? We're not really such close cousins, right? A human being, maybe even if you don't do it consciously, but sometimes subconsciously, a person might focus on certain relationships based on certain things. Hashem never acts that way. Even if a Jew sinks to the lowest level, Hashem calls him my brother and my friend. Hashem never disavows us. Okay? And he says, when he makes the point here, just to summarize it, that Hashem still refers to us as Achrei Mos-Kedoshim, not just like, he's my lo yutzlach cousin, but no, he's my close relative, right? And that he says, just look at the last line on this paragraph, L'chein parsha zu chizuk l'chol echad. This is tremendous chizuk for us. Sheyedesh avish b'mayim oive b'chol matzav shehu. Person has to know that Hashem loves us no matter where we are. U'lechein kedai l'schazak l'skar be'love. And there, person should always work. He could always, don't ever think it's too late for me to try to work on that relationship. Because from Hashem's perspective, the relationship's there. It's you getting in your own head that you think the relationship's not there. Okay, now what he does in the rest of the piece, you only have the next two paragraphs, it's like a 4-page piece, I didn't copy the rest of it. He just says there's one Tanai. There's one exception where Hashem will distance you, is that if you're a Baal Gaiva. So at least acknowledge that I have work to do. Maybe I'm not holding there. It may take me a long time to fix my relationship with Hashem, from my perspective. But if you become arrogant, and he brings a whole bunch of stories, but I didn't want to get into that. Now if you flip over that page, this is from another mimer. This is on Kedoshim. So we know that Kedoshim is probably one of the most talked about. The second pasuk in the parsha, Kedoshim Tiyu, is probably in the top 10 most talked about, maybe top 5 talked about psukim in the whole Torah, right? I mean, after maybe the Aseres HaDibros, but it's really one of the top ones, right? Everybody knows the famous Ramban who says that you shouldn't be a novel b'shatera, even things that are permissible to you, you shouldn't become a glutton, you shouldn't just give in to your taivas. So he talks about here, and I cut and pasted, so if the fonts change, it's not your eyesight. Some of them, he says, the question is, and I'll read the beginning part outside, and then I'll tell you where we'll go inside. He says, Pasuk starts off, Kedoshim Tiyu, that you should be holy, right? He says, but then the pasuk goes, Ki kadosh ani, right? Hashem says you should be holy because I am holy. And he says it doesn't make sense, because what does one have to do with the other? If Hashem is telling you to be holy, that's a command, so be holy. Hashem doesn't have to give you reasons. We have most mitzvahs in the Torah. Hashem tells you do this. He doesn't have to tell you why, because I'm holy, therefore you should be holy, right? He says also, Kedoshim Tiyu means all of you. Right? That means it's for every single Jew. Now, if I told you holiness, you would think holiness is not for every Jew. Holiness is for a Jew who's worked on himself, who's reached the level of tzaddik. Now he could start to become holy. But the pasuk is saying Kedoshim Tiyu. So he quotes here in the second line of the next paragraph. You see where he says it's in bold. Hatoldas Yaakov Yosef. He quotes Hatoldas Yaakov Yosef in Parshas Nasai. And he says, he's quoting another Rav in the town that he came from, Polnoi. He says, on the Pasuk, Kedoshim Tiyu Ki Kadosh Ani, he asks this question. He says, why does Hashem have to give a reason? Ki Kadosh Ani. Just tell us, you want us to be holy. He says that Shenefesh, look at the last line on that paragraph, Shenefesh Yisrael Mitzad Shem Netzer Mato Yisbarach. Because a Jew comes from, we have a Pchelik Elakami Mal, right? We're an offshoot of Hashem. Every Jew has a piece of Hashem, a chelik of Hashem inside of him. Mukhrach sheyeh ben olam haba. It is it will definitely be that he will be a ben olam haba. What does that mean? He explains. Now, it could be that a person may have to go through a lot of things in his life. He may have to come back to visit. I don't understand Gilgulim, but there is a concept of a person coming back to this world to fixing things that he damaged in a previous life. There could be certain difficult corrections a person has to go through life. There could be certain punishments if a person is not living the right way. But he says, Ki lo yidach menu nidach. Hashem does not give up on a Jew. Because we're a part of Hashem. Hashem's not letting go of a part of himself. Hu kodesh, which means whether we think we are or not, even like we said in the first piece, even if you're on the lowest level of tumah, you are holy. You may not feel holy, you may not believe that you're holy, but you are holy. Which means that Hashem will absolutely bring you back to Kedusha. And there's a hard way, there's an easy way, but you will absolutely be holy. And therefore he says, as good advice, why push it off? Hashem's going to bring you back to Kedusha at some point. Whether you want it or not, you are holy, and you're going to be brought back to holiness. Why should you have to make it hard on yourself? You may as well do it the easier way, right? So he says, you have to understand the value of who you are. Every one of us at some point are going to reach that level of Ish Kadosh. And he says, and you know why? You know why you will be holy? Kedoshim Tiyu, by the way, is going to make the point, the next piece is going to make the point from the Kajat Magid. You know why Kedoshim Tiyu? Kedoshim Tiyu doesn't mean thou shalt be holy. Kedoshim Tiyu means you will be holy. It's not a command. It's you will be holy. You know why? Because Hashem is holy and Hashem is a part of you. You're a part of Hashem. So if Hashem is holy and you're a part of Hashem, you will be holy. Pirish kol Yehudi hu chelik al kaim alachenim kain al karchach yesh bicholte lagil madrei gavoy, which also means that every one of us has the ability to reach very high levels. Doesn't mean that all of our high levels will look the same, but every one of us has the ability to reach very high levels. Now he quotes from the Kajat Magid. He says also the same idea, but he makes this point of tiyu is a lashon asid, which means a future tense. Tiyu means you will be holy. Like I just said, you will be holy. Not that thou shalt be holy, but you will be holy. He says, it doesn't say be holy. It says you will be holy. Lashon sivoy rak lashon asid. It doesn't say it as a command. It says it as the future tense. Ki bevadei tiyu kedoshim. You will be holy. Kisoif davar kol yisrael yu kedoshim lasad. Every single person will be holy. V'yitikon l'chol neshamas, and every single Jewish soul, no matter where they came from, doesn't matter where your family is from, doesn't matter how you got there, every single Jewish soul will be holy. This is a very important thing that everybody has to understand. Therefore, a person should realize that I can't escape this Kedusha. I have a Kedusha inside of me, I can't escape it. Therefore, a person should work on his relationship with Hashem. And he says, this is again, you see, he uses this lashon in this next paragraph. He says, this is also tremendous chizuk. Just like we said the other pasuk, that even in our tumah, Hashem is always with us. Here also it's a tremendous chizuk that every Jew should know how chashuv he is. Right? A person could say, I read Kedoshim Tiyu. I'll say, okay, Kedoshim Tiyu is for people who are on a holy level. It's for tzaddikim. No, it goes to every single. It doesn't matter how simple of a person you are. Right? In other words, a person, it's part of you. It's not. You don't have to be worthy of holiness. You don't have to put yourself in the parsha of holiness. It's part of who you are. But you have to know that. Right? Otherwise, you could try to ignore it as long as you can. But you have to recognize that you have tremendous power. Shu ben melech, you're the son of the king. You're a part of godliness from above. And you will ultimately reach a high level. So you may as well get started because it's inevitable. It's going to happen. If you know it's going to happen, you may as well get on with it, right? He quotes here a beautiful piece. We're going to do most of this outside from the Ma'ari Naim, the Chernobyl Rebbe. He says like this. He says, that when Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu to count the Jewish people, the way the pasuk says it is, it says, 1 second, where did I just lost it? Yeah. It says, Vayidaber Hashem al Moshe b'midbar Sinai, be'echad l'chodesh, daber b'nei Yisrael lemar. And the question he asks, it's also a very often asked question, is, what are you telling the Jews? Usually when Hashem tells Moshe, tell the Jews, it's because it becomes a mitzvah for us. You have mitzvah X, tell the Jews they have this mitzvah. But this mitzvah was for Moshe to count the Jewish people. We were passive participants. The rest of the Jewish people were passive participants. So what are you commanding the Jewish people to do? They didn't do anything. Moshe was the one who was obligated to count the Jewish people. So he explains, I'm just going to highlight a few lines here. He says that when Hashem was telling him, he says like this, look at the second line of the next paragraph. V'efsher sheyachzer shum echad mehem chas v'shalom. If Moshe would have skipped one Jew, the count he was not mekayim the mitzvah. It has to be a complete count. Go down to the fourth line. Just read these words. He says, Klola de Milsa. Right? You see 4 lines down in that bigger, wider paragraph. Klola de Milsa. Here's the rule. Efsher sheyachzer shum echad miyisrael. You cannot leave out a single Jew. Va'afilu nishamas shenaflu. Even those nishamas that fell. Dahainu nishamas harishoim. Even Jewish Rishoim, Efsher sheyavdu chas sheyavdu chashon, they cannot be lost, right? We see at the Seder, we have the 4 sons, we include the Russia. We could have said, we expelled him from the tribe. We don't expel the Russia from the tribe. Every Jewish neshama has to count, right? And he goes through a little bit of the history of the Jewish people. Skip to the next paragraph, and this is where the lesson is. Dahainu shekol echad tzarich leida. Every single one of us has to know ul his boinan, and we have to think about it. Every single one of us came here with a specific purpose, a specific reason for being here. What's the proof? Because we're here. Because Hashem wouldn't have put us here if not. Therefore, you are not allowed to think that you're insignificant, that you don't matter. Again, it doesn't mean that everybody has the same job. We could have very different jobs, but we're here for a reason. A person is not allowed to think, I'm just a simple person. It's not true. These words are amazing. Every single Jew is a star unto himself. Your light shines to a great distance. In Shemayim, you're considered. You may think of yourself as like, what? Me? Who cares about me? I don't really make a difference, right? You're considered tremendously chashuv and precious in Shemayim. What's the raya? This is based on the paragraph that we kind of skipped through, but based on the fact that each of us has a name. Our names, that's a whole different topic, but our names encompass, right? Before the end of Shemona Esrei, right? We all say psukim to remind our names. It's not just, there's a lot easier way. I don't have to go through 70, 80, 90, 100 years of life repeating it 3 times a day. I could just put on a name tag. Have the Chevra Kadisha at a person's 120. Have the Kadisha slap a name tag on them, and they'll be fine. Now, obviously, the name is the essence of my purpose in life. And when you come to the next world, after 120, you have to be able to say, what was I here for? You have, right, we're talking a lot about war these days in current events. You would be a very bad general or chief of staff or commander-in-chief, even if you're the best commander-in-chief ever and nobody's ever seen a commander-in-chief like this, right? You would be a very terrible one if you sent your soldiers in without weapons, if you sent them to war without weapons. Imagine if the Air Force took off 200 planes or attacking Iran, but they all forgot to put missiles on the planes, right? It would not be a great thing. So no general in the history of warfare has ever sent their troops into war without weapons, right? So he says the same thing. Now, different soldiers go into war with different weapons, right? Your infantrymen carry certain weapons. The guy on the tank has what he has to do. The Air Force does what they have to do. So it's not that we all have the same, but Hashem gives each of us the tools for the job that we need to accomplish. But clearly, no soldier is sent into war without the weapons that he needs. They could be very different weapons, but because when you send your soldiers into war, you want them to win. Nobody sends their soldiers to war, maybe Putin, but most people don't send their soldiers into war without the goal of success. Now, we could argue about how you define success, but the point is you want to give them the best chance of succeeding, so you give them the proper weapons. Not only that, he's hinting to the idea of Gilgulim again. The general wants you to win the first time, right? You already hear people going crazy, this war has been lasting for... it's still one of the shortest wars ever in the history of the world, but they're already using it against, right? But you want the war to be done quickly, efficiently. Nobody wants to have to regroup and send the troops out again and again. Hashem wants to look at each and every one of us and say, successful soldier, successful soldier, successful soldier. And that we should get our ultimate reward. So he says now, again, you see the fonts change. That gives you an indication that I was cutting and pasting, right? So he says, this is a little bit later on on Parshat Kedoshim also, he says that when it says Kedoshim Tiyu, I'll talk a little bit of it outside, he says, Kedoshim Tiyu means, he says, it's a way for each person how you should work on yourself. He says, what does that mean? He says, a person could start and say, it's too hard. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I've been fighting this Yetzer Hara. I've been fighting this battle for a lot of years. However many years a person's been alive, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, whatever. A person's been fighting this battle. We've all had this thought. What do they want from me already, right? You say, I'm like a simple soldier. Like I need a furlough. I need some time off, right? I can't keep fighting this battle, this Yetzer Hara that burns inside of me. What am I supposed to do? So look at the next paragraph. He says, Al zeba chelka sheni shel parsha. So later on in the parsha, it says, the pasuk says, Viskadishtem v'yisem kedoshim. You'll become holy and then you'll be holy. Ki kadosh ani Hashem Elokechem. It's a little bit of a longer version that we had in the beginning of the parsha. He says this is to give chizuk to every Jew, whatever situation is in. And he quotes a medrash. He says the medrash on our parsha says, look at the words of the medrash from the third line down where the quotes start. Rabbi Oven Amar. Rabbi Oven says, Mashal livnei Medina she'asu sholosh ataros lemelech. You have people who lived in a country and they decide they want to give the king a gift. So they want to make him a beautiful crown. But they didn't coordinate so well. And it turns out the people on this side of town didn't talk to people on that side of town. They end up showing up to the palace with 3 crowns, right? They didn't coordinate who's going to be the artisan, who's going to do it. So Ma'aseh Melech. So now, but they're all 3 beautiful crowns. So what does the king do? He can't wear 3 crowns. So he says, Nasam Barosh Achas, he puts one on his head. Ushtayim Baroshim Shalbanav, he has 2 sons. So he puts the other 2 crowns on the heads of his sons. Every single day in Shemayim, the Malachim, not because of lack of coordination, but they make 3 crowns for Hashem. What does he do? Noisin Barosh Achas, he puts 1 crown on his own head. Ushtayim Baroshin Shel Yisrael, and he puts 2 on the heads of the Jewish people. Hadod Chsiv, Darba Kadas Yisrael Kedoshim Tiyu Viskadishtem Ve'yisem Kedoshim. He sees the Medrash sees it in this pasuk that you will become holy, and you will be holy. So what does this mean? What does this Medrash mean? So he explains in the next paragraph. It is a beautiful paragraph. I know I keep saying that, but they're beautiful. Kavanas HaMedrash Mash Amar Shenoisin She'ataros Baroshim Shemana. What does it mean that Hashem every day puts 2 crowns on our heads? What does it mean even in the mashal that the king put the crowns on his son? He says Hakavana on the Siyos Koyach VaAchizek Shakadosh Baruch Hu Noisin L'Chol Yehudi Kadei Sheyuchol Eskadesh. Every single day, Hashem gives us fresh strength to become holy. So if you wake up in the morning and think, yesterday I tried to be holy and I failed, why will I be any better, right? We tend to start to have these thoughts. Elzman, right? Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, sit there going, I said all the same things last year. Every single day, so a person could say, what do you mean? I tried to be holy yesterday and I failed miserably. So what's the point of trying today? It says that Hashem gives a Jew new power to become holy every single day. Hashem never challenges us with something that we can't handle. Again, it's a chizuk. Why? And why is it definitely a dafka crown? Right? Hashem is giving us this strength. It's sort of like, imagine, we've all seen, I mean, not that we should put it on the recording, but we've all seen war movies, right? Before they go out to war, there's a guy who's the armor, right? He's checking to make sure that they have all the right equipment in the right place and all the, right? Hashem does that for each of us. When we get up in the morning, Hashem is checking that we have all the weapons we need to face whatever we have to face that day. It's a new battle. It's not the same battle you had yesterday. It's a new battle, and Hashem is giving you new tools. Again, it's sort of like what we said before. It's our own perspective that gets in the way because we convince ourselves if I failed yesterday, I'm going to fail today. But it's not true. Yesterday was a different battle. You had different weapons. Today there's a new perspective. Now, after a person knows this, we'll do a little bit here, and then I want to read a little bit from the Apter Rav's thing here. He says, by the way, this is a good cheat sheet. He just doesn't have enough shurim. If you want to give a nice survey of Chassidus on different Chassidus on Parsha, he quotes from all the different Chassidus Svarim. So he says that a person I'm going to read this short paragraph. Why? Because he says after a person knows this, and a person knows that I have to work on myself. I'm trying to make myself perfect in my actions. So we're making a mistake the way we think about it, right? We started off saying, I feel exhausted. I've been fighting this war every day of my life. I'm exhausted, right? And I'm depressed, I'm sad, I'm ready to give up. He says, but a person, what do they want from me? Why don't I get a day off? Why don't I get a furlough? Rak adraba. He says the exact opposite. What does that mean? Now that we know, that we establish that Hashem, the whole purpose of this is so that we get closer to Hashem, that we work on our relationship with Him. Haroit says, all Hashem wants is for us to be close to Him. You could take a tremendous amount of encouragement. The fact that you have challenges means Hashem hasn't given up on you. If Hashem gave up on you, He would then just coast through the rest of your life and He doesn't care. The fact that you're still fighting, the fact that the Yetzer Hara is still coming after you, means Hashem saying, I want that relationship. You got to push through, but I want that relationship with you. If He didn't care about you, He'd write you off. He doesn't care about you. He wants us to work on ourselves. That should bring us joy. Doesn't make it easy. It still could be difficult and challenging, but it should give us a lot of strength and a lot of joy to say, the fact that I'm still struggling means Hashem still wants that relationship with me. Otherwise, He'll right. If you encounter somebody that you don't care about at all, you don't give them a second thought, right? If you walk by some homeless guy on the street and as you walk by, he says to you, you're very ugly. You laugh. Maybe you have a good story you'll say when you get home, or you on Shul and Shabbos, oh, by the way, I was walking by this homeless guy. His whole face was crooked, and he called me ugly, right? But it doesn't bother you, because I don't care. I'm not interested in any relationship with it. But if a good friend of yours insults you, that could really hurt, right? If Hashem didn't care about us, so then go, have it easy. But I care about it. I want you to show me how much you love me. I want you to... So now he quotes it from the Apter Rav. He says, go down the second line where the quotes start. He says, "Dihine boire kol elam baruch hu baruch shemai Hashem bar nishmais amai bnei Yisrael." He created the neshamas of the Jewish people. L'man yetu darcheim u'magleiseim l'leches b'darchei yesharim l'fanav yisbarach al pi mitzvos Torah kedosha. Hashem created us that we should work on our inclinations, that we should go after the Torah and the mitzvahs. Hashem set up the world that He wants us to work for what we get, but He wants to give us all the good. He wants to give us everything in the world that we want, But he doesn't want to give it to us as a freebie, right? Because we see people who get things for free. It doesn't always end so well, right? Hashem wants us to earn it. He wants us to earn it. So therefore, when something takes us off course, and we don't do the right things, and Hashem does not want to give up on us. So we're doing the wrong things, but Hashem doesn't want to give up on us. If he didn't care, he would say, okay, go do the wrong things. What do I care? So you ruin your life. But Hashem doesn't want to give up on us. So it comes from Hashem's chesed yisbarach. Sometimes he gives us yisurim, some challenges, some difficulties, some suffering. Rahman al-Tzan. Again, he mentions gilgulim. I don't know exactly what that means, but sometimes a person has to come back. But klal shel davar, what's the rule? Shehabayre baruch hu uvarach shemay chafetz laman tzidkai. He wants leval yidach menonidach. He wants to bring us close. Umizakech umetar kol nishmais b'nei Yisrael im kroivai. Kol echel lefi b'china madrei. I once heard a great mashal. I heard this as a kid in camp. They used to have the Rabbi Avigdor Miller tapes. And I don't remember, I think I listened to a whole bunch of them. I don't remember I don't even remember anything from that summer, but I remember this mashal always struck me. He said, imagine you're invited to the party of the year. And it's going to have the best caterers. They're bringing in non-kosher caterers who have Michelin stars just to cater one kosher event. And you're invited 6 months in advance, and you're looking forward to this for 6 months. And then you wake up the morning of the party, and you saw the menu, and they showed you pictures, and this guy, and you wake up the morning of the party, and you have a toothache, right? So you call your dentist in a panic, and if you have any regular dentist that people like, it's not so easy to get yourself in that day. And you beg and you plead with this dentist. I need an appointment. I'll fit you in next Tuesday. No, you don't understand. I need it today. I got to be at this party at 6 o'clock tonight, and I got to eat all these foods. I've been waiting for 6 months to try some of these dishes. Okay, he does you a favor. He gets you in, and you're sitting in the chair, and you don't want Novocaine because I don't want to numb any of the tastes for later tonight. Just drill, right? Again, to quote Mr. Trump, drill, baby, drill. No, just drill. I'll grin and bear it for 5 minutes that it's going to hurt while you drill my tooth, but I got to be at this party tonight. This is what I was waiting for, right? Somebody walks in, sees the guy drilling you. You're wincing in pain because it hurts when they drill your tooth without Novocaine, and you're smiling and laughing. You're the happiest guy in the world, right? Why? Because you understand it's 5 minutes of pain, and I'm going to have like the best night of my life. I'm going to right. So Hashem, that's any time that we have any kind of challenge or difficulty, that's what's happening. Hashem is preparing us for something so much greater. But there's no way to get the tooth healed without drilling, right? There's no way that you're going to be able to enjoy the thing tonight, right? It's a silly example, but it's not so silly. There are certain things that have to be corrected sometimes, and therefore sometimes Hashem has to correct course. So he says, when a person thinks about this, and I'll just really, just a couple of lines we'll read, but he says that if a person realizes this, so then he's going to prepare himself. He understands this, and it'll bring him to great joy because he realizes that instead of thinking of it as like, why can't I have a break from these fights? He'll realize that every time the Yetzer Hara attacks him, it's a cause for tremendous joy. That's Hashem preparing him for that relationship. So look at the last two paragraphs. Let's just read the last two small paragraphs, and then we'll stop. Mamshich Sham, he says, I'm sorry, that this is what the Torah is promising us. Ki habayir baruch hu, baruch shemai, yishalom lanu mida k'neged mida k'darchi is baruch nizal. Hashem, we know, always pays us measure for measure. V'shamar Hashem l'kecha l'cha es habris v'es hachesed. Hainu shegam habayir baruch u baruch shemai. They left out a word there, Baruch Hu. Baruch Shemai. Yekabel taineg gadol ma'od mizu atshuka nechbedes. This now that we build work on that longing, and I say you almost not the chas v'shalom, a person who do that, but now you're almost looking forward to the challenge, right? Because now I see every challenge as an opportunity. I have a friend of mine who's a Rabbi in Eretz Yisrael. He always uses the example like when you're playing a video game. You don't get upset when the monster jumps out behind because you recognize it as an opportunity to earn more points, right? That's the point of the video game. Nobody wants to play a video game where you just walk through and nothing tries to attack you and there's no points to earn, right? The point of but you don't get upset that the monster jumped out at you. That's your opportunity to earn points. So he says, now you start, if you rewire yourself like this, you start to see, a challenge is now an opportunity for me to come closer to Hashem. I start to see that. When you start to see that, so a person, Hashem gets, and you realize that Hashem gets so much enjoyment from that. Asher also as atzam bechinas also Hashem, and there was something he referenced before. And every challenge you use as a way to recommit yourself, to be a little bit better, to do something a little better. Now Hashem says, you know what? Hashem also sees an opportunity. When you see it as an opportunity, now Hashem sees an opportunity to give you more good things in your life. Both in the schus of our forefathers, but also in the schus of this longing that we have for Hashem. Dahainu, and we'll just finish it off with this. This that a Jew has a desire and a longing, that we want to become closer to Hashem. This is a tremendous yesod, and a lot of the Chassidus talk about this. Before we did anything, I wake up in the morning and I say, you know what, yesterday I really was hoping to learn a lot more, and I didn't. Today, I really, really want to try better to learn a few more minutes, right? I didn't do anything yet. I just had that thought when I woke up, already in Shemayim, this tremendous simcha. The fact that you have that desire, and it may not work out today, maybe it will, maybe it won't. But the fact that you have that desire, the minute you say, I want to do a little bit better, that already creates an upheaval in Shemayim. Asher Yehudi koyev li bayashu meruchak. When you feel that distance, don't let that get you down. But the fact that you feel that distance means you also love Hashem, right? Otherwise, you could let Him go too. So Hashem sees that as when you say, I feel so distant from Hashem, that means it bothers you, right? It bothers you. That alone, before you did anything, you haven't changed your behavior yet. You just focused on, I want it to be different. They're already sending you down the hashpaz that Hashem wants to give you. And then you'll have help slowly by slowly until eventually you'll get to that level of Kedoshim Tiyu, to that level of where the person wants to be.